Do you think that in any way the PMRC has in fact helped this kind of music?
Girl tipper. Tip babe. This is for you, honey. You know, what do I do? I mean, I laugh at the grandest case of nepotism I've ever seen in my life. And I really get a kick out of the idea that she could use her power with her husband and with the other Washington housewives. And say even they could cover their kids' ears. Granted, they could do that. What happens when the kids go out on the street, you know, and they realize that life isn't prep school and the charity ball? You know, there's a lot more out there in this world, you know, and so I think it's pretty biased. Tell them to watch Eyewitness News tonight. You know, there's a lot more violence and sex on the news.
I just think that it seems that since they've started their campaign, in fact, the kind of music they deplore is doing better.
Well, maybe to some extent. I think really initially she really went after Prince was the reason that this all started. You know, the little purple guy didn't seem to care too much, you know, and it helped him. So her speaking out against such a silly thing, you know, I mean, and she never had proof of it anyhow. And, you know, now look, 2 years later, guys that are running to be the president of the country here is with some girl from Miami Vice, and the guy that says rock and roll's no good is doing his secretary and stealing $90 million. You know, he could go on and on and on and on. Meanwhile, all the rock and roll guys ever wanted to do was entertain a bunch of kids, you know.
Not to mention the Bakers who wanted to, what, ban a few things themselves?
Yeah, good old Jim and Tammy. All right, Jim, you chump. Where's the $90 million, you know? What's the secretary doing on the desk, you know? So the reality of the matter is that these people were really off base.
You have hated being called a pretty boy. But what about when you're called a sex symbol?
Same thing.
You don't like it?
No, I hate it.
Why?
There's no longevity. You know, I'm a songwriter, and I write songs, and I'm an entertainer. So it's, you know, there's nothing you can do about being called a pretty boy. You really just try to not pay attention to it, and you don't play it up, you know. And what we do is we go out and we play, and we hope that people are happy when they leave the show, you know, and try to put that across on our records. And we've had to prove ourselves, you know, but I think that it's coming across.
Can you tell me about Number 5 Orange?
No. Number 5 Orange. It is a drinking establishment located somewhere in the seedy side of Vancouver. Is also a place where the name Slippery When Wet came from, because there's a shower in this drinking establishment where young ladies seem to dance to rock and roll songs, and they soap themselves up, and you know, by the end of their set, and make a long story short, that's where the title came from.
I'm assuming they have no clothes on at that time.
No, little to none, you know.
Speaking of clubs, one not quite as sleazy perhaps, or not quite as fun maybe even, you recently got on stage in Jersey with Bruce Springsteen. Little club. What was that like?
It was just like the old days again, you know, really. It just happened to be a day where we were off, and we were close enough that we would fly home. So we all went back to New Jersey, and we were at my apartment, myself, Tico, Richie, and a couple of our friends, and they said, well, the E Street Band has gotten together down at the Pony. And I live about, a mile and a half from there. And I says, well, let's go, you know, let's go and make some history, you know, and we all laughed, and we went down there. And Bruce was getting off the stage as I had walked in. And I says, let's go. And he says, no, I'm done, I'm tired. And he says, okay, you're old. And I pushed him away, and he just came back with this, like, and he says, let's go. You know, and we all played together, and it was a lot of fun.
That would do it. You two, yeah. You had actually gone to jail, hadn't you, for selling posters, bootleg posters, to get the money?
That was about 10 years ago. I didn't, it was 9 years ago now, yeah. I didn't have any money, but was in New York City at Madison Square Garden and wanted to see Bruce Springsteen. And we had gotten tickets, and we had to pay for them. And my girlfriend at the time her father was a printer and gave us the in-store posters. So we figured we could get $1 or $2 for him. And one cop came up and I said, $2. And he says, give me a poster. And I gave him one. He says, you're under arrest. And he took us in, threw us right in a paddy wagon and took us to jail.
Did you have to stay overnight?
No, we even made it back for the show. They knew that, that we weren't, like real bootleggers. We were just two kids that wanted to go to a show. And they kept the posters and I think we paid like a $50 fine. So it was the tickets and the $50, we all got in trouble.
But at least you got to see the show.
Yeah.
I guess you guys didn't look like hardened criminals.
No.
Is it true there's this myth that when you were a janitor at the power station, he came in and you sang for him and he said to you, get your day job because that's not true?
No, that started in Europe. That started at somewhere on this tour. I heard that. The fact of the matter is that Bruce and anyone else in that band or in that whole clique down there was always very, very, very supportive of myself and the groups that I played in. And Bruce used to come down a lot, and Southside Johnny and Steve Van Zandt and all those guys. And I'd seen them all through all the years of playing the clubs. No, I was in high school and I'd play with those guys. So they had never said that and were very supportive. And in fact, one time in high school, Bruce called me up and they recorded one of my songs with Gary U.S. Bonds. Never made it to the record, but when you're 17 years old, that was pretty big.
I would say that's amazing. You said that experience of being a janitor, this is a quote anyway, whether you said it or not is another story. It was a great experience for teaching me how to treat being a star. Is that true?
Well, I don't know if I was quoted as that, but it's pretty close to that because one thing that you realize there, because it was such a big recording studio, was the bigger the star, the nicer the person. And in my experiences, I found that I would meet somebody that was, a huge star, and they'd hold the door for you. You know what I mean? And you meet the Rolling Stones, and you're, just a little kid, and they're going, no, after you, and you go, oh, wow, you'd expect, get out of my way, punk. But Stevie Tyler would let me sit in the studio one night, 3, 4 in the morning, and I was the only guy in there watching him sing. And it's one of your idols, watching Aerosmith working on a record, or Bowie, or the Stones, or Huey Lewis, or there's just so many people in and out of there. And it was the people who were just on the verge of selling a few records. They always had this air to them, that, oh, I've got to have this certain kind of soda in your ink. Yeah, this isn't how you, make records. And so it was really an experience.
Do you feel you're equally as generous when kids meet you now?
Oh, I don't know. I hope so.
You must.
I realize that you try to be.
I'm sure you try, at least.
There's no question.
If you're trying, I think you're doing it. If you're aware of it, then that's doing it.
Right. Maybe I hope so.
You've said, again, I'm quoting things that I've read, so if I'm wrong, you can just say, I never said that. But I've read that you said that you want to be what the kids expect.
Yeah.
What do you think that is?
Well, being a fan myself, I've sat in the 99th row, and every time, swear to God, the singer was looking right at you, And what I try to do is exactly that, and look at the kid in the 99th row, and not be afraid to dive in the audience or to reach out and touch someone and let them touch you back. And if they come on stage, never let them get pushed off. But okay, you're here. Now what do you want? You worked hard to get here. Now do something, and involve them in that way. Or if there's somebody sitting down, I'll just go over and go, hey, how about it? I'm working up here, and you get a smile out of them or something, at least to say, even if they're bored, or if they're having a good time and they're just trying harder to get your attention, they just did it. You know what I mean? You get that one guy and you could be sitting there like this. Come on, and they'll go, all right, I'll have a good time. And it seems to really come across that, I can try to make the big arena intimate.